Welcome to Football with Cheese. What a crazy pair of games. There's no way I can do both game recaps in one video. There's no way. Those were crazy for different reasons. I'm going to go ahead and record Washington-Detroit right now. And then I'm going to have a second cup of coffee, do a little more research, because I really want to dig deeper into the refs and the Chiefs. And about an hour after this comes out, that video will drop, before the game. Wow. So I didn't expect that. Almost nobody did. Washington wins 45-31 at Detroit. It really wasn't that close. It didn't feel like it. It felt like Washington won by a lot more. Detroit, got up 7-0. Washington on the first possession had a horrible 4th and short call. Blew it. And I'm like, here we go. They moved down the field. And, like we talked about, Detroit's defense, they have some injuries. You can move the ball on Detroit's defense. And then Detroit goes right down and gets a touchdown. And I'm like, well, here we go. Detroit's going to blow them out. Another one of those 40-9 games. However, it did not go that way. Washington goes down and ends up with a field goal. And Detroit gets the ball back, and I'm like, it's going to be 14-3. That's what I'm thinking. However, Jared Goff started throwing interceptions. And the turnovers were 4-0. And it's very hard to win when one team turns the ball 4 times, the other team 0. It went back and forth for a bit. And then Goff throws that pick 6. And that pretty much changed the game. Washington never trailed after that. I'll give Detroit credit. They kept fighting. They kept scoring in that first half. But they gave up 28 second quarter points. And Washington had a 10-point halftime lead. Jared Goff, let's talk about him for a second. He looks really good in most games. Like we said in the preview show, about 3 or 4 games a year, he just plays awful. And this was one of them. If you remember Super Bowl 53, most people don't. One of the most boring Super Bowls I've ever seen. The Patriots won 13-3 over the Rams. Jared Goff was playing for the Rams at the time, and he was awful in that game. He didn't show up at all. He only threw 1 interception, but he'd have open receivers and miss him by 5 or 10 yards. He was just awful, and they scored 3 points in the Super Bowl. Detroit tries to get too cute with these trick plays. That trick play where they had Jamison Williams pass the ball through a pick, Detroit's got to stop with these trick plays. Some of them work, but they get too cute. They try to trick them too much. And that was such a dumb play. One of the turning points in the second half was Washington was only up 31-28, and Detroit had 12 men on the field, giving Washington a first down, and they got a touchdown right after that to go up 10. Huge momentum swing. Detroit had lost to Meek Robertson, the corner. Underrated player, very good corner. Really hurt them. They already had a ton of defensive injuries, especially on the defensive line. They couldn't afford any more. The defense was hanging by a thread. And we've seen their defense get destroyed before. Buffalo put up 40 against them. Here's another game. They give up 40. Turnovers obviously didn't help. But Detroit, it just seemed like their defense just didn't have anyone left. Mike Sanderstill, the corner for Washington, rookie second-round pick, probably should have been drafted higher than he was. But he's undersized. He's an undersized corner, so they typically fall in the draft. But he can play. He had 2 picks. Outstanding college player at Michigan. And Quan Martin had the pick 6. One more player I want to mention on Washington, Diami Brown, was a 3rd-round pick in 2021 out of North Carolina. Didn't do much his whole career. Only had 30 catches this past year. Had 59 catches in entire career. But has really stepped it up in the playoffs. They need a number 2 receiver besides Terry McLaurin. And he had 6 catches for 98 yards. He had 5 for 89, a touchdown last week against the Buccaneers. Terry McLaurin can't do it by himself, and Diami Brown's really helped the offense, gave him a number 2 receiver. Zach Ertz makes big catches, the veteran tight end. That screen pass to Terry McLaurin that went for a long touchdown. Screen passes are not supposed to go for long touchdowns. We keep seeing them almost every week in the NFL. You see a screen pass go for like a long touchdown. but just very one-sided. Washington is a hot team. Sometimes it's not who the best team is or has the best roster, it's the hottest team. And Washington is playing out of their minds. Jaden Daniels is having the best rookie season I've ever seen a quarterback play. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He was amazing at LSU. Rookies should not be playing this well. And they're 2 games away from the Super Bowl. If they win the Super Bowl, it will be the biggest long shot I've ever seen since I've been following football. They picked second in the draft. Second. That's how they got Jaden Daniels. They won 4 games last year. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL. It wasn't just Jaden Daniels. Like I said, Mike Sanders, still a great pick. They signed a bunch of veterans, gave him a bunch of leadership, filled a bunch of holes in the roster. Dan Quinn was a great pick for a head coach. It's working. It's absolutely working. He got a lot of the blame for the Super Bowl loss where he was coaching the Falcons. They were up 28-3. He got a lot of the blame, but the players blew it. They blew it. Cliff Kingsbury's an outstanding offensive coordinator. He used to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. He does a great job with the offense. Joe Witt Jr. is the defensive coordinator. While it's not a great defense, he has done a lot with the talent on that defense. It's not a very talented defense. Joe Witt Jr., I know him very well. He was the cornerback coach during the golden age of the Packers, 10 years ago when they were winning Super Bowls, making the playoffs every year. He did a great job with the corners back then. When Mike McCarthy got fired, he left. Did not stay with the current regime. So he wasn't fired or anything. But he's done a great job as defensive coordinator. It's funny how Dan Snyder was the owner for the Redskins for over 20 years, and they stunk. The best franchises hire people who know what they're doing. Hire people in the business to run the front office and leave it alone. Almost all teams do that. Have Super Bowls in the last 20 years. Have success. And he would meddle. And he sells the team. As soon as he sells the team, boom. They're a contender again. They haven't been to a conference championship since 1992. And they're right back as soon as Dan Snyder sells the team. So, just incredible story. And Eagles and Rams fans are very happy because now, if they win, they host the NFC title game next week. So the winner of the Eagles-Rams will get a home game and host Washington. So one more thing I want to mention. Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions. Media just loves him. Act like he's this greatest coach. I don't know. I think he's got great coordinators. I don't know how good a coach he is, to be honest. Once he loses those coordinators, if they get head coaching jobs, we'll find out. But he cried in the press conference. And all I have to say is, act like a man. You can act like a man, to quote The Godfather. Come on. Yes, you're bummed, but... And then he cried, and he took the blame. I'll give him that. He took the blame, but then he cried. So you're taking the blame, but you're also kind of playing the victim. That's what it came off to me. And I would love to ask him. They won't ask him. The media protects him. Of course, Detroit media will protect him. I'd like to ask him why he is the dirtiest team in the league. Why Kirby Joseph, his safety, is one of the dirtiest players in the NFL. Why his players tried to hurt Jordan Love when they played him the first time. And Vikings fans complained about it too, saying that the Lions were trying to hurt Sam Darnold, twist their knee and ankle when they're on the ground. I do have a clip I will put in the comments of them trying to twist Jordan Love's ankle. He was just coming off a knee injury. They're trying to twist his leg. I would love someone to ask him that. Because they could stop being dirty, but Dan Campbell could tell him not to do that. But obviously he doesn't. So congratulations to Washington. Fun game, awesome win. I'm definitely not sad that the Lions are no longer in the playoffs. So the NFC North was the best division ever, as far as record-wise. All 3 teams were awful. Packers, Vikings, Lions in this postseason. All lost convincingly. All were way outplayed. All didn't show up at all. Crazy. The NFC East has 2 teams left. The NFC North has 0. Okay. I'm going to do a little more research, drink a little more coffee, And the Texans Chiefs recap, I think you know what's going to be in it. It's going to be interesting. All right,